everyone. Welcome once again to the Powerhouse Woman Show. I'm your host, Monica Pierre, where we sit down and have the most amazing, thought-provoking conversations with amazing women, whether they're being entrepreneurs, running their own corporations or their nonprofits, life lessons. That's what we talk about on this show, and you are a big part of it. Our show is brought to you by Storymaker Academy, our 6-month program where we help you discover, develop, and deliver your story. So I'm excited today because we're going to talk about a topic that I think we don't talk enough about, and that's being resilient. This book was put in my hands by Beverly Bilbo, and it talks about resilient, unbreakable, unstoppable, and undefeatable. And what does that really mean? Now, we are joined by the author of this book. We welcome everyone. Welcome to the show, Beverly Bilbo, a senior pastor, speaker, author, leadership coach. I talk to her, and the list gets longer and longer and longer. And Pastor Beverly, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
I must say you're my first senior pastor. I love it. I love it. We're going to be who we are. And I know there's some people who are listening. They're going through some storms. We just recently marked the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. People are going through their own personal storms, knocked down, drag out situations going on with them. And they really don't feel resilient. They feel beaten up and battered. Let's talk first about what does it mean to be resilient?
You know, I feel like resilience is a choice. And a lot of people may or may not realize that, but it's a choice. It's a conscious decision. I think that one of the main definitions of being resilient is your ability to bounce back in the midst of obstacles and situations that come your way, because very often the tendency and the temptation is to just give up and turn and say, just forget the whole thing, because we get so weary in the battle. And when obstacles come our way, when adversity and specifically I find when it's situations that are out of our control, that makes it worse. Because there are situations in our life that we can control. But then there are other ones that come our way that we have absolutely no control over. And so when those things come our way, the tendency is to just give up and run and hide and forget the whole thing, you know. But we have to make a decision that we are determined we are not going to give up. And I think one thing that helps to be a motivator in that is if we stop and think about all the people that love us and who are depending on us, watching us to see how are they going to handle this? Because everything we do, we're setting an example for others to follow.
And as you're speaking, Pastor Beverly, I was thinking, you know, we want to hide, but we also want to pretend. We want to pretend that nothing's going on, right? That the outward image is everything, but on the inside, we go home and we're crying in the midnight hour because it is hard. How important is it to process that we don't have to pretend with telling everybody our business, because we can't really share everything from the beginning of what we're going through.
Right, exactly. A lot of things, I think that's where a lot of people make mistakes. That's where, you know, I use social media on a daily basis. I think social media is an amazing thing, but I've also seen a lot of times where people use that and they air all of their grievances, all of their issues, and it comes back, you know, to bite them. It causes a lot of problems for them. And so wisdom is not to share everything you're going through at the time, and or if you are going to share it with somebody who you know is going to give you an unbiased opinion, not just what you want to hear, somebody that loves you enough. You know, the Bible says in Proverbs, a friend loves at all times, but a friend also, it says a friend is going to tell you the truth, even if it hurts, even if it's things you don't want to hear, you know. And so sometimes that's what we need. We need somebody to just be real with us, you know, somebody we can share our heart with, and they're going to come back and say, hey, you're not handling this right.
Right, absolutely. And we need those people. Those are the people we go to. What was your view of the whole idea of being resilient or resiliency from the beginning? Did you always have a handle on it, or did the things that happened to you change the way you thought of being resilient?
Oh, I think that I think all of the above of everything that you just said. I think that we hopefully are growing as we go through our life. Hopefully, we are every challenge and every experience that comes our way, we make a decision. Hey, I'm going to grow through this. I went through a horrific storm when I was between 27, 28 years old. And I remember crying out to God in that time and saying, God, you know, I don't understand all of this. I am basically suffering and going through challenges, not because of my own actions, but because of the actions of people that I'm connected to. And I'm devastated. I'm heartbroken. I feel betrayed. And I don't know what you're trying to teach me through this, but I pray, God, that you help me to always have a pliable heart, a pliable spirit, so that I can learn and I don't have to go through this again. And so I really believe, Second Corinthians, my husband uses this passage in probably every sermon he preaches, because he's the senior pastor. I co-pastor along with him. And in probably every sermon that he preaches, he says, 2 Corinthians 10:3-5, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. You see, it's up to you and me. I know you know this already, but for everyone listening today, it's up to us. We have the responsibility, because thoughts are going to come our way all the time. And research I've done, talks about how many thoughts we have during a day's time. And we have the responsibility to capture those thoughts. If they don't exalt God, if it's not a positive thought, the Bible says in Philippians chapter 4, verse 7 and 8, it tells us to go to think on these things. God tells us what to think on.
Right.
So we've got to capture those thoughts, cast them down. If it's not something we need to dwell on, because our thought life is going to determine whether we're going to come through a situation successfully, or whether we're going to be defeated in the midst of the situation. So that's so important, is to capture your thoughts and to allow God to help you have the right kind of thought processes. And that's what I did. I said, when I was, that age, I feel like that was pretty young, now that I'm 65, 27, 28, that is very young. And I look back on that and I said, God, whatever you're trying to teach me, I want to have the right heart. I want to have the right attitude, because I don't want to go through this again.
Right. This is so amazing. And there's so many people who are watching, whether you call yourself faith-based or not. That is not the point, because again, you are hearing something that reaffirms or absolutely has you thinking in a different direction. And there are so many storms and challenges and setbacks that you talk about in your book. And I told the person who recommended that I reach out to you, I said, Gorman, I covered that trial. So that those may know who you are, get the book and read more about it. But basically, for those who are thinking about writing their story, those who are thinking about sharing their story, how did you make the decision as to what to include in this particular book, Resilient?
Whew, that was challenging. That's a loaded question for me. I have to say I had to edit a lot because when you start writing, everybody I know has different ways of writing. A lot of people write, they have like one of those storyboards and they do their writing that way and all. That's not how I write. I just write from my heart, whatever, as it's flowing, And so, I tried to select things that I felt would be positive to people. I think people need to know, sadly, there are many ministers that have let people down. And a lot of people don't want anything to do with Christianity because they've been hurt by people of God who let them down by their choices in their life, by mistakes they made willingly, or something maybe they were trapped into. That could go either way. But I just wanted to make sure that people knew that I'm real, I'm relatable. I personally don't care to be around ministers, and I've been around so many, even very high profile ministers my whole life, because I'm a preacher's kid. And so I was like, man, I don't want, well, anyway, I'm trying to stay focused here. There's so many places I could go with this answer right now. But I was like, I don't want to be one who's not real. I want to be real and transparent, because I get disgusted when I see people of God who are trying to put on a facade and act like they have it all together. You said something a minute ago about we want to pretend. We want to pretend. Pride is such a huge thing, and it's in every walk of life, because society has taught us that we've got to always present to people that we've got it all together. We know everything. We have all the answers and we're in control, when that's not the truth. We're all humans, every single one of us, and we all make mistakes, and we all have been impacted by people who've made mistakes. And so we have choices. The choices, whether we're going to survive, whether we're going to make it through, is up to us. We've got to make the right choice. We've got to make that right decision that we're going to make it through. So I just prayed and I asked God to help me know what to put in. And there were a few times I would ask my husband and my daughter and my son and friends, my daughter-in-law, I'd write them and I'd say, hey, do you think I need to put this in there or not? Because I knew I needed a sounding board but from somebody else, you know? But I wanted to make the book resilient. In this book, as you said, I talk about many storms. Hurricane Katrina is one. I talk about health storms twice. I nearly lost my life through health challenges. I talk about that. I talk about a myriad of storms that have come our way and come my way in my life, and how that I had to make the choice and the determination. I'm going to come through this, and I'm going to come through this triumphant and victorious, because God is on my side. He promised never to leave me. He's not going to leave me, and I'm going to survive this thing so that his name would be exalted into every challenge I go through. So in writing the book, I had all of that in my mindset, because I don't know who's going to pick this up. I don't know how badly they may be in a position of wanting to give up on life and to give up on hope and to give up on God. And I don't want them to do that. I want them to know that every one of us has faced horrific challenges, from being molested as a child, that I survived that. Several things that I've been through in my life. And I just was very transparent. I hit on all the different topics that I felt I could share in one book, and asked God to help it become real and relatable to the reader, and that they would understand no matter what they're going through, they too can become resilient when you let God work in your life.
One of the things, Pastor Beverly, that I really wanted to be clear when I came up with the name for the show, the Powerhouse Woman Show, and we hear the word powerhouse, but that it's multi-layered. Being a powerhouse woman, calling yourself a powerhouse woman, maneuvering in the world as a powerhouse woman doesn't mean that you're not going to have storms.
Exactly.
Doesn't mean that you may be on the brink of bankruptcy or on the other side of it. It doesn't mean all of those things, but my goal has always been to put people and women on the show who can say, look, I can tell you a fairy tale or I can tell you the truth.
Yes.
And here is my story. Here is my song.
Yes.
So thank you so much for being that way. So what do you hope the readers get out of the book? Because, again, it's the story you're telling. It's not just cathartic for you, but it's helping them see a certain perspective. So what do you hope readers get?
Well, I'm going to share a scripture in answering that question, if you're good with that. One of my favorite verses is found in 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 14. It says, now thanks be unto God, which always causeth us to triumph. And I think that is so very important for us to understand that in our hearts and minds. God is on your side. People may have walked away. People may have failed you. Government may have failed you. Storms like Katrina, my husband and I, our church was located on Academy Drive in New Orleans near the 17th Street Canal. So we ended up with 12 and a half feet of water inside our building for 3.5 weeks. Our church was located right behind that pump station that they built there on I-10. It was located right behind that. And that was one of the ones that wasn't turned on. And so we lost everything, and so it was such a devastating time. And so we've been through the storms, but God, even in the midst of those storms, when we can't see him working, he's still working for us. And so we have to put our trust in him. and we have to put our trust in ourselves. And I've heard that shared on some of your broadcasts. I've been enjoying watching some of your broadcasts in the past week. And I've heard you talking about everybody has a story, but just they may not be the same story. They're all going to be a little different.
Right.
And somebody needs to hear all of our stories, because we're here in this time, at this season, by divine purpose, not only for ourselves, but to help other people. And we don't want to fail. I read in a book one time that Adam's greatest sin was not that he ate of the fruit. His greatest sin was he failed to fulfill what God destined him to accomplish. Man, when I read that, it just really rattled me. And I was like, oh God, help
Yeah.
me that I
Help
will
me.
fulfill whatever you destined me to accomplish. I want to fulfill that in my lifetime. So help me make wise choices. Lead me, order my steps, put me connected to the right people so that I can fulfill what you've destined me to accomplish.
Beverly, we're out of time, but I always like my guests to let people know how to follow them, how to find out what they're up to. So for the book, I know this is not your first book, but basically, how can people get the book?
They
Resilience.
can, right now you can get it through Amazon. It's probably the best way, or you can message me on Facebook. I'm on Facebook, Beverly Bilbo. I have a page on there, Beverly Gorman. It's my maiden name, Bilbo. And you can find me there and message me, and I can send you the options. Also, our church website is praisechurchoflouisiana.com. And those are the
Okay.
great ways to reach me.
Well, great. Thank you for being with us. Hold on, I'll put you
Thank
back
you.
in the green room, so don't go
Okay, thank you
anywhere.
so much. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
I really hope that you have heard something that's encouraging you today. No matter where you are, whatever storms have been coming, have come, and may come, know that you will have what you need when you need it. Change is going to come, hardships, change of life, all of that's going to come. But at the end of the day, you are still a powerful, powerful person. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Briscoe, who's also the lead author of the book that we just released. And that is In Relentless Pursuit of Me, Upending the Unicorn Effect. So again, I hope you've heard something that's going to just really make you stand up a little bit taller, dry the tears, knowing that they may come again, but that you will have everything you need in which to get through your storm. Until next time, next week, have a great day and join us again for the Powerhouse Woman Show.